Thank you everyone for coming out this morning. My name is Michael Mannion. I have the pleasure of serving as the city's Community Relations Director. I would just like to welcome everyone here this morning to our annual Veterans Day program. If everyone could please take a seat, we're going to get started in a minute. Again, today is the day we recognize the service and sacrifice of our veterans. It's a very important day that we recognize this service from our military personnel. This is an annual tradition that the city has done for many years, and we just again would like to welcome you all here today for joining us, and thank you for that. I'd like to introduce Mayor Ken Siver to begin our program. Mayor Siver?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And what a beautiful day it is. So, we are, as Michael said, we're here today to honor our veterans who have served our country over the many years. First, I would like to introduce our Gerald Houston from the chairperson of our Veterans Commission. Gerald, this was your opportunity to welcome people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know whether to keep this hanging, put it on, take it off, or what to do with it. So. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all. And it's obvious that at last our leaves have finished falling, really. And most minds now turn to thoughts of Thanksgiving and Christmas. The members of our Veterans Commission here in Southfield, we're focusing on two different dates: Veterans Day and Pearl Harbor Day. These two holidays stand out not only for their reverence to those served, but also because they give a natural platform for our Veterans Commission to stand out in our communities. Therefore, here's a little history. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the fighting of World War I ended in 1918. Due to the conclusion of the war to end all wars, November 11th really became a universally recognized day of celebration. The day was originally declared Armistice Day. 8 years, I think, after the end of World War I, and honored only veterans of that particular war. Then in 1954, excuse me, after World War II and the Korean War, which unfortunately was mine, it was renamed Veterans Day. Veterans Day to honor all veterans who served America in war and defended our democracy. So today, allow us to honor all of our veterans who unselfishly placed their lives on the line for freedom. Those men and women were ordinary people, truthfully, until they heard the call of duty and decided to answer it. They left their families, their homes, their lives, not for recognition of fame or even the honor bestowed upon them today. They fought to protect our country and to maintain our constant way of life. As we honor our veterans and remember their great deeds, let us also salute those who are currently fighting for our freedoms. The war of terrorism has helped us really all realize how truly unique our particular American way of life truly is. The freedom we enjoy is extremely special, and that is why we must defend it. So now is the time to not only honor those who fought or are fighting for our freedoms, it is also the time for each of us to take part in protecting that freedom. The defense of freedom is not just for us military. Each of us share that duty and that responsibility, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have to join the Army or the Navy or the Air Force or any organization of defense to actively defend our way of life. We can protect our freedom simply by maintaining it here in America. If we want to preserve our freedoms, we must put them into action. For example, by what you did yesterday, by voting. In elections of speaking out against injustices. We must also ensure that everyone feels the benefits of freedom. And we can do that by volunteering our communities and also teaching our children that what it really means to be an American. Veterans Day isn't just a day of veterans. It's a day for all Americans. It's a day to remember why they were fighting and a day for all of us to begin our journey of protecting our freedom and the freedom of many future generations. Thank you for honoring our veterans today and coming out. Let us walk towards tomorrow, still honoring these veterans, and by living in the freedom they protected. I'd like to welcome you all, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Gerald.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Here. Thank you.
Southfield's one of the few communities that does have an active Veterans Commission, and Gerald has served on it for years, and we appreciate not only his service in the Korean War, but also his service to the city of Southfield. So at this time, I would like to ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. And next, I'd like to call up Father Chris Yaw from St. David's Episcopal Church to give the invocation. Father Yaw.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Mayor. And I want to greet all of you in the name of the Lord on this 103rd commemoration of Veterans Day. It used to be called Armistice Day, as Gerald reminded us, in thanksgiving for that peace that was signed between the Allied and the Axis powers when President Woodrow Wilson made the second Armistice Day in 1919 an official celebration. We were an optimistic people. The horribly tragic war to end all wars had ended the previous year. Things were looking up. Americans had every right to expect that no civilized person would ever want war again. Then, barely 20 years later, a deranged German army corporal, a veteran of that same war, set out to conquer the world and brought us into World War II, and so went the 20th century, arguably the most violent century ever. Undoubtedly, these wars and all subsequent ones have us wonder, what in the world can we trust? We were so hopeful that goodness and truth would come out and violence and evil would not reign, and it did not happen. Moreover, we are even now living through precarious and dangerous times, more dangerous than we have known for several generations, dangerous morally, socially, politically, etc. And this morning, we find ourselves in the shadow of a lackluster election day that has done little to quell our divisions, unify our country, or even inspire us to talk more charitably with those whom we disagree. Consensus is broken, fear is all around, there is an unspoken undercurrent of anxiety and uncertainty. We don't know what the future holds. But I ask you to join me in trusting in the true and living God. Just as Job did when he said, "In the midst of great confusion, I know that my Redeemer lives." I bid you to lift up your eyes with me today in hope. Hope that doing God's good work in the world counts. Hope that the human spirit, created and enlightened by God, can fix what is broken. Hope that the good will eventually win out. Our veterans embody this hope. Their bravery, their courage, their hope deserve our respect because they are the guarantors of the freedoms that we all enjoy. Our veterans do the bidding of politicians and diplomats who we pray have our best interests in mind. Veterans fight to preserve our constitutional rights. Veterans die so we can live. So on this 103rd commemoration of Veterans Day, let us give thanks to God for their service and keep them in our prayers. Let us bow our heads in prayer. O Judge of the nations, we remember before you with grateful hearts the men and women of our country who in the day of decision ventured much for the liberties we now enjoy. Grant that we may not rest until all the peoples of this land share the benefits of true freedom and gladly accept its disciplines. This we ask in the name of the Spirit that is present here, for where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Amen.
Thank you, Father Yah, for those inspiring words. At this point in time, I'd like to make some introductions, starting with our council members. Council President Lenny Taylor. Councilman Pro Tem Ari Mandelbaum. Councilwoman Nancy Banks. Councilman Daniel Brightwell. Our city treasurer, Irv Lowenberg. Judge Cynthia Arvant from the 46th District Court, newly re-elected. We're graced today to have Robert Wittenberg, our county treasurer, with us. From the school board, I see Trustee Darrell Hicks. Oh, I'm sorry. Darrell Joyce. I'm twisting. I was told that Charles Hicks would be here, but I don't see him. Okay, Darrell Joyce, trustee. Excuse me, Mr. Joyce. And also from the school board, James Jackson, our school district. And I'd like to also introduce two other people that are very important to our team here. Police Chief Elvin Barron and Fire Chief Johnny Menifee. I hope I haven't missed anybody else. As many of you know, I had a long, I think, distinguished career in the Southfield Public Schools. And one of the pleasures I had was working with a gentleman that's behind me. He is here today. He's continued to serve the children of our community. Music director, Jeff Martin. And this is with the Southfield A&T choir. Director Martin.
The song we selected for you today is the Armed Forces Medley. So when you hear us sing your song, feel free to shout your battle cry. Our students are actually looking forward to hearing it.
They
to introduce our side band and professional accompanist, Ms. Trent Ball.
Well, that was certainly a treat, and they're in very fine voice. Things have not changed. I'm glad for that. So at this point, I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker this morning, who is Brigadier General Jeffrey M. Terrell. Brigadier General Terrell currently serves as Director of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for the Joint Force Headquarters in Lansing, Michigan, and has served in that position since December of 2020. Prior to that, he served as Assistant Adjunct General Exercises for the Michigan Army National Guard in Lansing. Brigadier General Terrell received a BA in Personnel Administration at Michigan State University, an MBA in Business Administration at Wayne State University, and MSS in Strategic Studies in the United States Army War College. Brigadier General Terrell has received promotions, a number of promotions, obviously, during his military career, from second lieutenant in 1990, first lieutenant in 1993, captain in 1996, major in 2002, lieutenant colonel in 2007, colonel in 2013, and his current position of brigadier general since 2019. Brigadier General Terrell has received several U.S. decorations and badges, including the Meritorious Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, and the National Defense Service Medal, to name a few. Brigadier General's civilian occupation is corporate banking at Flagstar Bank in Troy, Michigan. Please welcome General Terrell.
Good morning. Did the choir leave? Let's give them a round of applause. They did awesome. That was great. You should also give yourself a round of applause. Could I get the veterans stand? This first time I've heard that medley, and we didn't have a fight break out, which was great. So the inter-service rivalry is great. So can I get all the veterans stand all together? And I'd love to give you guys a round of applause as well. And I know, we've got folks, every one of those veterans that stood had a family, has a family that supported them in their service. And whether you're a brother, a sister, a niece, a nephew, a grandpa, a grandma, and you've got someone in your family that served, I want to say thank you to you too. Because none of us get to wear the uniform without the support of our families that allow us to do what we do. So good morning. I'm Jeff Terrell, Brigadier General in the Michigan National Guard, and I want to welcome you and thank you for inviting me today to this service. Today we honor and celebrate our National Guard citizen soldiers as well. Soldiers and airmen who have served proudly and distinctly in every major conflict our nation has faced for nearly 4 centuries. I love the medley, but they don't have a National Guard song, but the National Guard's older than everybody. And it goes back to that citizen soldier who hand on the musket, hand on the plowshare, dropped the plow, grabbed the musket, and fought the Brits, and worked for our independence as a nation. President John F. Kennedy once said, quote, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." Living by the values set by their predecessors is a standard that National Guard members continue to embrace to this day. General Daniel Hokanson, Chief of the National Guard Bureau and a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said all Guard members, past and present, are united by an oath to the Constitution, a love of our country, and a willingness to sacrifice for something greater than ourselves. He said, quote, "From the founding of our nation to today, we are grateful to the National Guard soldiers and airmen and all service members who answered the call to serve. They represent a proud, patriotic tradition. That tradition has been marked by an unprecedented and historic response the last 3 years. National Guard members supported every combatant commander around the globe and met every governor's request for assistance here at home. Despite a pandemic and record wildfires and named storms, the highest levels of National Guard support to our nation since World War II. As we speak, right now, more than 20,000 Guard members are standing a post overseas. Unique to the National Guard is our ability to apply the training and equipment from our combat missions to aid our response efforts to man-made and natural disasters right here at home in Southfield, in Detroit, in Michigan. National Guard soldiers and airmen logged more than 21 million days serving our nation in 2020 and 2021. 21 million days. Despite the inherent dangers, Guard men and women left their homes and families to help their communities and neighbors recover from devastating homeland events. Whether it was wildfires in California, a tornado in Kentucky, or a hurricane in Florida, which is actually relevant today. There'll be Guards members tomorrow morning helping the citizens of Florida. Probably similar Guards members that were there 3 weeks ago doing the same job on the other side of the state. In 2021 alone, Guard members provided more than 450 million meals to neighbors, distributed more than 345 million pieces of protective equipment, and administered over 14 million vaccinations across the 50 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia. They also helped local state and federal agencies recover from cyber attacks. Even with the unprecedented call-ups, National Guard men and women remain at their core part-time soldiers and airmen, but full-time members of their communities. I'm chuckling because I was at the bank this morning wearing a completely different outfit. So when they take off their uniforms, they fill the role of our business partners and bosses, our teachers, our coaches, our first responders, city council members, community leaders, and role models, still serving this country and their communities with the same sense of duty and honor. History has provided us with extraordinary examples of their selfless deeds. They've brought hope, faith, and liberty to millions of people around the world. The true number of people who have benefited cannot be calculated, and the number of people in memorials raised or speeches delivered doesn't begin to represent the true scope of service our Guard members have provided. So for those who have served in the past, and the current 444,000 Guard men and women in the 50 states, 3 territories in DC, who have kept their promise to be, quote, always ready, always there, we salute you today and every day, and I thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brigadier General, for those remarks. At this point, we're going to move the ceremony outside. It's in a 2-phase thing, so I want to give everybody directions. We're going to move first to the steps out the front door, and we will have the raising of the flags. And then after that, we will move to the Veterans Memorial Garden. So at this point, I would like to ask our Commission Chair, Gerald Houston, and by the way, on the back of your program are the other members of the Veterans Commission. If they're here, would they please stand? I don't think they got introduced. In the rear, thank you. We appreciate your service as well. So, Chairman, if you'd come forward. And then I'm going to ask, as we dismiss from the chamber here, that the veterans who have served to please lead the procession out of council chambers. So may I ask the veterans to assemble at the back door.
Oh, say, can you see the dawn's early light was so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets were glad, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I'd like to pause at this moment for a moment of silence before we have this 21-gun salute. Bow your heads. Thank you.
Heavenly Parent, we ask you to bless our country's veterans for their service in defense of the principles you and we hold dear: justice, liberty, democracy, prosperity, and peace. In addition, Eternal One, bless and keep all who are on active duty today, in sea, air, and on land, that they too should come home safely, so that we might honor them on future Veterans Days. Bless as well the families of all those who serve and all who have served, and may they know their nation is grateful for their sacrifice and for their commitment as well. Guardian of life, teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife. May our country be strong and free. May our citizens be kind and giving. In honor of our veterans' commitment and sacrifice, may we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have fought and especially those who have died in defense of our ideals. Finally, let us so pray that a day might come soon when nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. A day when each person should sit under his or her vine and fig tree, and none shall make us afraid. May such a day come soon and in our time, and let us say together, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Starr. This concludes our program for Veterans Day. We invite you all to come back into the lobby for refreshments. Again, thank you all for being here.